TLDR Learning presents The War to End War, the psychological aftermath of World War I. The silence after the guns. November 11th, 1918. The 11th hour. The guns that had roared for 4 years fall silent, one battery at a time, until the Western Front sounds like nothing at all. Just wind over wire, boots sinking into mud too tired to swallow. Soldiers stare at the horizon as if waiting for an encore. Some cheer, some cry, some simply stand, their ears ringing with the echo of absence. It is the loudest silence in human history. The Great War has ended, but nothing feels over. Men climb from trenches that have become their geography, valleys of fear, prayer, and repetition. They have learned to sleep beside corpses, eat beside rats, and measure life in inches. The armistice stops the fighting, but not the momentum. The machinery of death has been wound too tightly to halt in a single morning. Even the air tastes metallic, as if time itself has been rusted. In Paris, bells ring as diplomats assemble to invent peace out of paperwork. Maps are spread like wounds on tables. Borders are drawn with trembling hands. Empires crumble under pens sharper than bayonets. The victors call it justice, but the lines they carve will bleed for a century. Germany signs humiliation disguised as treaty, and resentment begins to ferment quietly in the cellar of Europe. The world congratulates itself on survival without realizing it has only rearranged its ruin. In hospitals from London to Vienna, the real war continues. Men who never saw a shell explode wake screaming each night, victims of invisible wounds the doctors cannot name. The term shell shock enters the language, a diagnosis born from thunder. Some tremble endlessly, some forget language. Others stare into nothing, as if the mind has fled and left the body behind as evidence. The world calls them broken. They are simply the first generation to learn what trauma means. Cities rebuild, but the rhythm of life returns out of tune. Women who filled the factories now face empty promises. Veterans beg in the streets wearing medals like mirrors of irony. Poets trade the glory of battle for its grotesque anatomy. The war to end war becomes a phrase too heavy for even politicians to lift. The collective mind of civilization has been rewired, not forward, but sideways. Humanity has seen what happens when reason industrializes death, and reason itself may never recover. At Verdun, at the Somme, at Passchendaele, poppies sprout in churned soil as if the earth itself remembers. Farmers plough up bones with each spring thaw. Memorials rise in marble and silence, their inscriptions shorter than the grief they contain. Every name carved into stone is also etched somewhere unseen, in a psyche trying to reconcile the modern with the monstrous. The guns have stopped, but their echo has moved inside the human mind, where it will go on firing for generations, minds in ruin. The war has moved indoors, into memory, into medicine, into dreams. Across Europe, asylum gates close behind men who once held rifles. They flinch at footsteps, mistake thunder for shellfire, whisper apologies to ghosts. Psychiatrists, armed with nothing but words, try to chart this new territory of suffering. Freud writes of repressed trauma, Jung of the collective shadow. Both sense that civilization itself has fractured. The human mind, they realize, has trenches of its own. In London, a young officer named Wilfred Owen is buried with his poems. His words travel further than his body ever could. My subject is war, and the pity of war. Writers become cartographers of despair. Remarque, Hemingway, Sassoon, all translate madness into language. each sentence a bridge between what happened and what can be remembered. They give voice to a generation that has seen machines outthink their makers. The literature of the 1920s is not art. It is therapy conducted in public. Back in Berlin, inflation eats the city alive. Paper money litters the streets. Children play with banknotes worth less than their laughter. Hunger breeds extremism. Veterans gather in beer halls to curse the invisible enemy called betrayal. They wear brown shirts instead of uniforms, but the posture is the same. A demagogue learns to speak their language of loss, turning memory into weapon. The Treaty of Versailles becomes the fuse for a second detonation. Meanwhile, science begins to catalogue the invisible. Neurologists record tremors, psychologists test reaction times, governments count the uncountable cost of broken minds. The word neurosis enters newspapers. Rehabilitation becomes policy. Yet none of it touches the root. The dissonance between modernity's promise and its performance. The machine that once represented progress now symbolizes oblivion. The age of enlightenment has given birth to electric chairs, tanks, and chemical clouds. The light itself feels poisoned. Ordinary life becomes performance. Jazz rises from the ashes, fast and defiant. Music that refuses reflection. Cities rebuild in steel and glass, pretending transparency equals healing. Men dance to forget. Women cut their hair. Poets praise speed, as if velocity could outpace grief. Underneath it all, the subconscious hums with unrest. The 1920s glitter like a party held on a fault line. By decade's end, the diagnosis is clear. The world suffers from what one French doctor calls la fatigue de vivre, the fatigue of living. The trenches have moved to the mind. Anxiety replaces patriotism. Doubt replaces prayer. Civilization has survived its suicide attempt, but only barely. In every modern city, beneath every jazz note and neon sign, lies the same refrain. Never again, the war within. By 1930, a generation has grown up beneath the echo of gunfire it never heard. The children of the Great War inherit its silence like a second language. They play in fields seeded with shrapnel, breathe air still heavy with memory. Europe's mind, though outwardly mended, remains haunted. It dreams of order and breeds obsession. Nationalism returns dressed as restoration. The world, desperate for meaning, turns again towards certainty, no matter the cost. Art begins to fracture. Painters smear logic across canvas. Composers abandon melody for dissonance. The age of reason gives birth to surrealism, dada, abstraction. Movements that confess the truth no politician will, that the old world is gone. Freud calls dreams the royal road to the unconscious. Artists turn them into highways. Where once the muse was beauty, now it is trauma. Creativity becomes the final battlefield, where sanity negotiates its surrender. In the ruins of Europe's spirit, the first clinics of modern psychology take shape. Analysts, veterans, and teachers form an alliance to study resilience, a word newly necessary. They discover that healing is not the absence of pain, but its integration. Memory must be given structure, or it will rot into myth. Nations, too, begin their therapy. Memorials, anniversaries, anthems sung softly enough to hide the guilt. The scars become identity, but the lesson is incomplete. The same science that mapped the human mind also refines the weapons that nearly destroyed it. Tanks become faster, bombs smarter, propaganda more intimate. Humanity learns to manipulate belief with the same precision it once reserved for ballistics. The battlefield moves from soil to soul. When the next war comes, and it will, it will be fought first in imagination. For now, the world calls it peace. Streets fill with cinema, radios hum with promises of progress, yet every invention hums the same undertone: fragility. The veterans grow old, their nightmares thinning into stories told over beer, but the trauma remains in the collective bloodstream. Psychologists call it transference. Historians call it pattern. Both mean the same thing, that history, like trauma, repeats until understood. And so the century continues, wiser perhaps, but not cured. The trenches have become invisible, running through schools, offices, families. The mind has inherited the battlefield. The guns no longer fire, but their echoes still teach us how to listen. The war to end war never ended. It only changed its weapon. Now it fires through memory, through silence, through time itself, reminding every generation that peace is not the end of conflict, but the discipline of remembering what conflict costs. Thank you for watching TLDR Learning. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing with your friends. There is real research and a team of people working together to bring you these videos. We hope you enjoy them as much as we did making them. Check our channel for more content like this. See you in the next one.